Hello, crafters! Happy 2025! I'm so happy to be back. Today, I have some interactive designs for you. I have double sliders in both orientations and a quadruple slider at the end. And I'll show you how to make them. It's very quick and easy. You can make it with whatever you have at your place. I just won't show you how I decorated them. But I'll have all the products linked on the information below. Slider cards are super fun, easy to make, and the design I'm showing you is the easiest design I've ever seen. You need 3 panels of any size that you want, 2 panels that are like a half an inch narrower than the other 3, and then you decorate them however you want. So I have one that it's the card size and 2 that are the sliding panels. You also need a strip of plastic, and that strip is what's going to create the whole mechanism together with one of the other panels. What I'm doing here is I'm using the backing from my double-sided adhesive. This one is dimensional. It's the one we're going to use for the mechanism. And I'm using a piece of the backing to cover the other side, the opposite side. I'm going to cut it down, and because I have the backing on both sides, it's very easy for me to cut it down however I want, any shape, any size. And I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut that half in quarters, into quarters, and that's what I'm going to use on my mechanism. At first, I forgot to put the adhesive, the double-sided adhesive on both front and back, where you see me catch up later. Here, I need it to be the size of the longer side because I want my panels to slide up and down on this card, but you could do it in the opposite orientation, do it on the narrower sizes. You just need to adjust your 2 panels accordingly. Now I just am measuring with a ruler the space in between the 2 adhesives, making sure that both my plastic and the 2 smaller panels are narrower than that space, slightly narrower, so they can move freely. I am going to fold my plastic and cut off a tiny bit, a tiny strip. I'm freehand cutting this with my scissors. You can use a paper trimmer if you want to. I find that the one I have doesn't work great with the plastic. It just folds it instead of cutting it. So I trust the scissors a little bit better. I'm double checking, making sure it's the right size. And if I need to, I will adjust the panels off screen as well, just to save some time. Once I'm happy with the measurements, I'm just gonna assemble it. So I'm gonna use this I think this one is like 1/8 or maybe a 1/16 of an inch wide, double-sided as well. I'm gonna add it to one side of my plastic, and I'm sorry it's off screen here. It took me a minute to realize. I'm just removing the backing, and that adhesive is facing up. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it down to make sure that it doesn't move and just slide the other end on top of it. Don't stretch it. You don't need to, like, you want it to be just a tiny bit loose actually, so it can move freely up and down. But you don't need to stretch it, you don't need to leave extra room. Just hold the bottom piece in place and lie the top piece on top of it, and that will be okay. That will be fine. I'm making sure I always check the direction of my panels. This one has the grassy hills, and I want it to slide down, and I want it to be on the bottom of my scene because everything else is sky. So I'm adding the adhesive to the back and top of that panel. I'm going to remove the protection layer and put it down on my mechanism. I'm making sure that that seam is all the way to the top, so it has room to slide down. And this one there is going to go on the bottom. I'm going to put the adhesive on the bottom front of the panel. So the first one, it's going to be the back and top. This one is bottom and front. If you remember that, just be aware of the orientation of your panels, the images. If you ink blended like me, or if you're using pattern paper, just be aware of it so it doesn't go to the wrong direction once you open it. The one from the bottom is going to slide up and the one from the front is going to slide down. That's why the orientation is important and I'm trying to be aware of it. At this point, I realized that I forgot to stick down the adhesive on the back, so I'm doing that carefully, not to overlap the other panel they're already put down, and to make sure there is a tiny bit of room in between them. So if you forget to do it, it's okay, don't panic. Just make sure that you leave a tiny bit of space in between the adhesive and your panel. That's all. You might want to measure the adhesive to make sure that it's narrow enough before you put it down in that case. Here's the result. You can see that the two panels can slide freely. Now, I realized that I needed something like a tab, a pull tab, to stick to one of my panels to make sure that they can still be visible. You still have something to grip, to hold on to once they are closed. And I'm doing these circles and stamping just a pull here sentiment. I'll have it linked down below if you want to see the ones that I'm using throughout this video. But what you could do is make this panel longer than your card panel. And then you wouldn't have the tab. The tab sometimes catches on the back when you're sliding it in, not out. It doesn't catch when you're sliding it out, but it does sometimes catches when you're sliding it in. If you make your panel actually longer than your card size, you wouldn't have that problem. It would still be visible once it's closed, or you can just stick it, like slide it up and leave some room from where you stick it down. You have that option as well. What I'm doing now is exposing my double-sided dimensional adhesive and sticking the panels to the front and back. Instead of this back panel, you could add a card base if you want some extra room to write. I didn't do that on mine. And here's how I decorated it. This one, I added some clouds, the sun, rainbows, sentiments on top, center, and bottom, and some birds. And that's all I have for this one. And now we're going to move on to the second option, which is landscape orientation. For this video, I opted to show you how to make the cards instead of how to decorate them, so I could save some time and focus on the details of the confection of the mechanism. But you let me know if you want more details. I can share them on the next few videos. For the next one, it's exactly the same idea, the same recipe. I did round the corners later of all my panels. So you need a plastic strip. This one will be wider than the other one because we are going to use it on a different orientation. 3 card size panels, whatever size you want. Just make sure that it's half an inch shorter the other 2 panels, right? So you need 5 totals. 3 the size that you want the card to be, and 2, these 2 will be shorter because we are going to add the adhesive above and below them on this case. And I did the same thing. I decorated them off screen with the ink blended clouds. I didn't use a green grassy hill for this one, just because I wanted to do it quicker. And I'm doing exactly the same steps here. Be aware that if you use like a wider double-sided adhesive, you might need to cut this down even further. If you have the narrower strips of dimensional double-sided adhesive, just use those. You don't need to do this, but this is an alternative for people who don't have access to those like me. I don't have them in my stash. I do find this is very, very easy. If you don't save the backing of your double-sided adhesive like I do, what you can do is use the parchment paper on the other side. Parchment paper, the one that you use for cooking, that's the one. That one will also work, and it just helps your scissors not to stick to the adhesive. If you have the scissors that are already non-stick, kudos to you. That makes your life way easier. I don't, as you can tell, and that's why I resort to these alternatives, I guess. While I'm blabbing away, I'm sticking everything down. It's exactly the same thing as before. You can see that I started measuring the adhesive along the longer side, but then when I went to put it down, I put it correctly. This time I did remember to put it both front and back as well. And I think I changed my sentiment on those round pull tabs. But everything else is exactly the same idea and concept. I just wanted to mention that I am using very heavyweight cardstock for all my layers because I'm not doubling them down. But if you are going to double them down, you can use lighter weight cardstock and that will hold well. The other thing is the plastic that I use for all of my cards today came from a plastic bag, a shopping bag. I just cut it down into smaller pieces, the size that I needed, and I saved whatever I had left for a future card. And I chose one that was deliberately colored so you could see it against the white cardstock, but you can use any color. It won't be that visible from the sides. You see, like, unless you put it crooked like I did in one of them. Now for a final card, we're gonna need way more cardstock because this is basically two cards stuck together. The two previous cards that we did, we're basically making that stuck together. I did change the color, the orientation, and everything so you can see that you could decorate these cards however you want. In fact, in this one, I used an envelope on the inside, and it's an envelope that I made myself. I do have a video on how to make envelopes if you want to check this out afterwards. I'll try to link it down below as well. And you can make envelopes on any size. So I made one. It's a real envelope I made out of printing paper. I could add a gift card inside of the envelope or small bits that I want to gift someone. I could add washi tape or adhesives or stickers, anything that I want to send as a gift. Just make sure that you don't use anything that is two-dimensional on the inside because it can get stuck in the inner mechanism, but otherwise it should be fine. This card will end up being extremely chunky, extremely dimensional, so I don't think it's an easy one to mail. It is possible, but you will have to add a lot of extra stamps, I guess, to be able to mail this card. It's one that I will personally hand deliver, but it's up to you. That's the only thing you need to be aware of. The other tip that I have for you is when you think about decorating a card like this, think about other things that you can add. Like you could add pictures to those panels, or if it's a card that, let's say, you want to use at work for somebody's birthday, you could leave each panel blank for other people to write on them so they will have extra space. I've done that once in one of my previous jobs. It was a quadruple card. It was Harry Potter inspired, if I'm not mistaken. And all those extra tabs were space for other people to write their own messages. So you can do different things. Just bear in mind that you have all this extra space, so you can use it either for decoration or for different things. And here I'm just assembling everything together. This is like our second card. It's exactly like our second card. You have a front panel, a back panel, and the sliding ones, I just replaced one of them for an envelope. And this one, you see me struggling to open it because I didn't check it beforehand. But after I opened and closed a few times, it did work better. It's just a matter of actually checking things before I glue it down, folks. I am keeping all my mistakes. Mistakes were made were made in this video, many of them, but in the end I fixed everything. Everything has a solution, so don't panic. The second one, it's exactly like the first card that we made, with the difference that I didn't add a front panel, and I'm gluing that one to the back panel of the other card. I hope that makes sense. So I'll show you here all three cards that we have at the end. You can see that I could just glue those two together and I will have a quadruple card like the last one that we made. You just need to pay attention to the orientation. As you can see, the clouds in the case would be facing the wrong direction. And this is the final one. I hope you like it. I hope this is useful to you. I hope you have fun. And next video, I'm going to do some watercoloring. So please come and check it out. See you next week. Bye.